Okay, let's go again from the beginning of the 8th Perek. No, I'm sorry. I don't think we did this the last Mishnah in the 7th Perek twice yet. Let's go back there. Perek Zayin Mishnah Ches. Hamakdish Karmai, someone who gives his vineyard to Hekdesh, Anshli Neida by Ha'olos, before the grapes develop to the point where you could tell which clusters are the deformed ones and are going to end up going to the Aniyim. So then they develop in Hekdesh's Rishos, and Eina Ha'olos Laniyim, those undeveloped, poorly developed clusters do not go to the Aniyim because they're Hekdesh's property and Hekdesh doesn't have to give to Aniyim. Once the clusters are already beginning to form and you can tell which ones are going to be oilos and which ones are not, so then ha'olos laniyim, at that point already the oilos are property of the aniyim, so you can't make them hekdesh, and they go to the aniyim still. Rabbi Yossi says, however, yitnu schar gidulan lahekdesh, the aniyim have to pay hekdesh for growing their grapes, so they'll lose some percentage. Fine. Ezehu shikha, what's shikha by grapes? So it depends. But aris, if your grapes grow on a trellis and you stand underneath them and pick them, then kol she'enu yachal lifshidis yadai v'lekta. Anything that you can't reach back and get, and you have to walk back past where you've come already, that's shikha. Uberuglis, the grapevines that just grow on the ground by your feet, that's mishiyaver him, and when he walks past the vine, that's shikha, and he can't take them anymore. Okay. That's Perek Zayin, Perek Ches, Mishnah Aleph. Me'emasai kol adam mutar beleket. At what point can any person take leket that he sees left in the field that you can assume the aniyim are no longer planning to get?
And the last thing.
Yeah.
So it's a grape. So if you can't, you can obviously you could bend down as far to the ground as you.
Right. The question is, when do you view it that I've gone past it that I now can't go back to get it? So if it's on the ground, so I do one vine at a time, and once I move on to the next vine, then I can't go back. If it's hanging, then I can reach back and just grab it. Yeah. At what point is anyone allowed to take leket? That they could figure that the aniyim are finished with this stuff, and whatever's left here, or even if maybe someone's working in the field later in the season, and now there's a few whatever is here. When can he take them? So the Mishnah says, "Mishielcha hanamushos," from when I think literally it means the ones who feel it out go through. So to dispute what that means, does that mean that it's the old people who walk on their canes and they go very slow, so they're likely to see everything? Or is it twice the aniyim have gone through the field, so they've kind of cleaned it out and there's not much left, and at that point you can assume the aniyim are not going to bother coming back here anymore by a grain field. The perid u'ba'olos, by a vineyard, so the grapes that have fallen in the undeveloped clusters, that's mishaholcha aniyim bekerem v'yavoy. When the aniyim go into the vineyard and come back, because they passed by them twice, I guess they're a little bit easier to see. And by then you assume there's not going to be anything left. B'zeisim, and by olives, mishatered v'yishniya, once the second rain comes down, because I guess that's kind of going to knock, the olives are going to get riper to the point where most of them will fall off the tree maybe. Rabbi Yehuda says you can't say that. Some people don't harvest their olives for the first time until after the second rain. So obviously there's still leket at the time of their harvest. There's going to be something. Rather, it's then Ani would go out to the orchard, and he won't bring olives worth 4 isser. Which they say that the cheshbon of isser is 4 isser is basically the cost of 4 meals. So if you can't get enough value to get food,
an isser is a meal.
Yeah, an isser comes out to a meal's worth. So if you can't get enough, a punyan is a meal. An isser is 2 meals. So if you can't get enough food for 2 days, no. An isser is. A punyan is 2 meals. The 4 isser is 4 meals worth. So 4 meals worth is food for himself and his wife for 2 meals a day. So if you can't get that much out of this field, it's not worth the effort of going through the olive orchard to try to get olives. So at that point, no one's going to bother anymore. Okay, Mishnah Peah. New concept, right? We've mentioned a few times that Leket shitcho peah or meiser things that are given, that the Torah obligates you to give away, do not have an obligation to give Meiser from them. As opposed to something that someone grows or purchases or gets as a gift, that they would have to give Meiser from. So Mishnah Peah says, Nemonim, you believe the poor people Leket val shitcho val Peah to say that this produce I have, I got as Leket shitcho Peah, and therefore I'm not going to take off Meiser, and that's okay. And when is that? That's b'shaitan. That's at the time when they're available. So if it's the wheat harvest season, and this poor person has a bunch of wheat, and he says, I got it as Peah, so you believe him. Vala Meiser ani, b'chol shaitan, Meiser ani, which the Balabayas gives out of his house, so that the poor would believe at any time to say, I got this as Meiser ani. But they're only believed if the stuff is in the state that people give it. As is explained in Mishnah Gimel, if they have wheat, they're believed to say that they got that wheat as Leket shitcho Peah.
Your Girsa doesn't do Ben Levi Eman Olam?
It does. Ben Levi Neman Leilam. I missed the line. A Levi is always believed to say this is Meiser, the same idea as Meiser Ani in the years that Meiser Ani implies, meaning the third and sixth year of the Shemitah cycle. Instead of Meiser Sheni, there's Meiser Ani. In all years, though, the Levi gets 10%, so the Levi is always believed to say that his grain that he has is from Meiser, and therefore he doesn't have to give Meiser from it. But they're only believed on stuff in the state in which people give it, which is then explained in Mishnah Gimel that Nemanim Alachitim, if they have wheat kernels, they're believed to say that they got this wheat as Leket shitcho Peah. But if they have flour or bread and they say got this flour as Leket, people don't give Leket from flour. People are supposed to leave the Leket in the field, so they wouldn't be believed about that. Or Ne'eman al Seira shel Eires, they're believed on the barley that looks like rice, or the rice that looks like barley. I mean the unprocessed grain, either barley or rice, whichever way you want to read it, grain which still has the husks on it. But if they have the more processed grain, which is not the way they would get it even as Meiser Ani, so at that point they're not believed whether it's raw or cooked. They're believed about beans. But they're not believed about bean meal. Again, if it's ground to flour, that's a state in which they wouldn't be usually given out. And neither raw nor cooked. They're believed on oil. To say it's Meiser Ani, because oil, Meiser can be given from a later stage, from when it's made into oil. But if an ein nemanim alav leimer zayis nakafu, they're not believed to say these are olives that they found left in the tree as shitcha, and they made them into oil themselves, because such olives would not normally be used to make oil. And just finishing up in this.
Olives are the ones that are left over.
Yeah, the ones on top of the not so good ones on top of the tree. So those ones are not really good for making oil. So presumably, if you have oil, it didn't come from there. And finally, Mishnah Daled, Nemanim ala yerek chai, they're believed on raw vegetables. Ve'enemanim ala mavushal, and not on cooked vegetables. Elim kenei davar muad, unless it's just a little bit. Shekein derech shobalabayas lios moitzi milifsai, because it's possible that the homeowner would forget to take off Meiser from his vegetables, and you put them in his pot, and then he'll take off from that pot after he realizes he forgot. So he would have a little bit of cooked vegetables that he'll be giving as Meiser. So a small amount of cooked vegetables is possible that someone could get as Meiser, but a large amount of cooked vegetables normally the Meiser would be given raw, so we would not believe the Ani or the Ben Levi to say that he got this as Meiser. Okay, stop here.